To all the reasonable, thoughtful, and logical people, as well as non-human entities too. Right now, I have with me my good friend, our comrade, our like-minded person, member of our team, Dr. Oleg Pritula. I have already told you about him more than once, and I believe he is such a modest person, but he has so many good ideas and so much knowledge that I always want to share, but he needs to be pushed to do it all the time. So he is an actor, specifically in the non-dialogue silent film genre, which is quite unique and well known. Oleg wrote such a declaration, or rather a manifesto, which I believe he should share with all our listeners, because these are very correct, short, and clear statements, military style. Oleg, can you please share with us?
Yes, well, I would divide this information into two parts. What has happened to us over the last 4 to 5 years. And next, as always, it is very important what to do. Because we need to assess the information, evaluate the situation, look 360 degrees around at what is happening, and make the right decision if we correctly assess what has happened. And what did we have, Harry? I would like a comment from your side.
We had a power grab and the destruction of our values, our country, and the world order. The most genuine coup d'etat or Bolshevik revolution, it can be called in different ways.
It turns out that the democratic communists, globalists arranged COVID and completely immobilized the economy. And that's how it turns out, and it turns out, and it turns out. I believe this COVID situation was strategically arranged to prevent Trump from getting a second term. Just imagine what a mechanism of global democratic communist rot was indeed truly putting sticks in the wheels, because they understood that Trump was steadily gaining momentum. The economy was working so well that they could no longer establish this conservative way of thinking among people. And the only way to stop this was to create some non-standard situations, which is what they, the bad people, did. These bad people took actions that were unconventional and unexpected. Bad people.
Radishes.
Radishes. Then they undeniably stole the elections in 2020. Trump undoubtedly won then. Today's elections have already proven this. Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, gathered nearly 80 million votes in the 2020 election, which was a significant achievement. And quite simply, through some careful manipulations, they made it so that, in a way, Trump does not win in the end. When Trump left the White House, he indeed left a letter to Biden saying, "You know, I won, and I will be back." And this is how, after all, the truth has triumphed, so to speak. Then they unleashed 2 wars in Ukraine and Israel, plus various small wars around the world. It turns out that, in fact, Putin, indeed feeling like a terrorist, felt completely free with a weak president, so he could, with complete calmness, calmly attack Ukraine. At that time, oil prices rose, Putin has money, and it turns out his hands are untied. Especially with Biden's words, "It's just a small war for 3 days," that it's nothing serious. Therefore, I must reiterate very clearly and unequivocally once again that a terrorist speaks the same language as communist socialists. This is the problem. Then one can undoubtedly and indeed say that they stole 4 years of flourishing life from all of humanity. In other words, the situation on Earth would be completely different now. There would be no wars, no conflicts. We indeed subjected Trump to all the agonizing torments of hell after 2020. That is the harassment of him and his family. Then they ultimately tried to imprison him through the judicial system, an assassination attempt on Trump. They virtually used their entire arsenal in every possible way, which they could use. And still, in the face of all this, Trump stood firm. It seems as though God is still on our side, continuing to favor us. Once more, we are in this fortunate position. They tried to falsify the elections again because approximately 20 million illegal immigrants entered the territory of the United States who were even allowed to vote without ID. Then voting is not conducted in just one day, and voting itself is allowed, for example, without ID. So you can imagine that in California, Newsom issued a law stating that if you present an ID, you have criminal liability. This means the communists have completely lost their minds.
No. These are the states where Kamala Harris won. All the states where you didn't have to show your ID, meaning just walk in and vote.
What does this say? In essence, that if, for example, we level out the situation at the legislative level and effectively create laws to prevent cheating and distorting elections, then the chances for these particular red revolutionaries will disappear forever. Therefore, it is very important not to give them absolutely any chances in any way to do anything. Because I believe that in the future, there should be only two parties left. These are the conservative and libertarian parties, which should compete with each other. And the Democratic Party should go away. But it has completely discredited itself. We still don't know everything. Because at this point in time, right now, as you may already be aware, Elon Musk has taken on the task Roma Slavi. Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft and a well-known philanthropist, is now taking an active role in this initiative. His involvement is expected to bring attention and resources. It turns out that such a group is set up so that people do not understand. It is a trio of entrepreneurs who have placed themselves above the political power structure. It turns out that the real power is now with the entrepreneur, while the entire party structure is beneath them. And they will not be able to do anything as it has always been. This is the first time, as it has always been, that one of the parties appoints its president and they constantly throw parties. But here, it is no longer the case. Above them are entrepreneurs, libertarians, you could say, who will put this entire party structure in its place. And this once again proves that it is correct that the entrepreneur is the highest form of politics. Because what is a politician? They sometimes call it the art of the possible, but they do not complete the thought, because it is the art of deceiving people. They have cut off this statement.
Destroying the average entrepreneur is the most dangerous thing for them. The average entrepreneur is a fist. Yes, destroying the fist.
This results in vigilante justice.
They are the most independent. Depend on no one. They are entrepreneurs themselves.
Yes, and it turns out that, as a matter of fact, the entrepreneur is primary, while politics is secondary. Accordingly, a politician spends all their energy fighting with another politician to gain the next power and deceive people.
And not providing jobs in any substantial and impactful way.
But here, the entrepreneur doesn't need to, an entrepreneur like Elon Musk does everything efficiently in their business. Both vertical integration, and it results in the maximum possible outcome in the process of achieving in a short period. And thus, for the first time in human history, entrepreneurs took power into their own hands. And it turns out that, surprisingly, Elon Musk has this flamethrower. Vivek has an incredibly sharp chainsaw. And now the Attorney General has a hammer. I think these three tools will certainly and undoubtedly easily handle this situation and incredibly elevate humanity to a completely different level. And now Elon Musk is so extremely active on the X platform that he is almost constantly, frequently discussing things that were not talked about before, like taxes and various other topics. And he says that, in his honest opinion, the amount of taxes consumed by this government apparatus is just absolutely utter madness. It turns out that a person gives away approximately 50% of their income in an absolutely irrational way, a typical year, to indeed incapable people who produce something Elon's position is that this money should stay with the people. People know better how to use their resources in a more comprehensive manner, in a rational way, and effectively, and as a result, the economy will be better, and the relationship will be correct between a small government and the individual, who, in principle, this government was established to support and protect us, but it turns out that it only puts obstacles in our way and practically immobilizes all businesses. Because they are ineffective, not only because they take all the resources, they are also ineffective because they cause harm. This can also be conditionally characterized as a leech that sucks your blood and constantly injects poison in a way. It turns out that everything should be turned upside down. And the question, as always, Harry, is what to do. Perhaps step by step. Well, first, considering the situation in the current global landscape, entrepreneurs have increasingly become more prominent and influential than politicians. The first thing is to defend freedom of speech. That is, freedom of speech thanks to Elon Musk 2 years ago, who, can you imagine, foresaw the situation. He bought Twitter for some incredible amount of money, and everyone was shaking their heads at him, saying, "What are you doing? It wouldn't work," and so on. At the moment, the X platform is currently the best platform in the world, the most demand.
Switch over, because even what Oleg is saying now will need to be censored. So please switch to AX and subscribe to us there.
Yes, of course. And after Elon Musk introduces a payment system on the X platform, your transaction fee won't be 3%, like in my small business, but 0.3%. He will also dismantle the entire bureaucratic banking machine. Therefore, freedom of speech is very serious. This is one. Then the next thing to be done is to erase the communist fascist ideology from the face of the earth. And considering that power is now indeed in the hands of business entrepreneurs who will spread like a viral, in a good sense, good virus across all countries, America will practically be an example for other countries on how to properly organize the relationship between the state and business. And Elon didn't create this department called Daughter for nothing. He always knows how to creatively solve problems. This is the Department of Government Efficiency and Efficiency, which will now bring a sense of order and make correctness and fairness, I strongly believe, both taxes and the number of bureaucrats in Washington, and what Ramaswamy proposes, Vivek Ramaswamy, with such a large and effective saw, to significantly reduce the number of bureaucrats in Washington by 75%. In addition, move and completely transfer and relocate all these structures outside, such as to the states. That is, they should not be located here at all. And this is in fact created solely as a breeding ground for corruption. As Trump said, they should go to the Patriots and they will feel better there. Yes.
People should leave for the states where they work instead of sitting in Washington, Moscow, in the Kremlin, perhaps.
And it is indeed a very extremely serious task that needs to be solved. I am undoubtedly sure that this Trump team, plus this trio that stands at the head together with Trump, so to speak, is to destroy these rabid globalists because they are completely detached from this world. It turns out that if before there existed a state with 3 branches of power, legislative, executive, and judicial, and a platform where money is collected from taxpayers, and let's say this platform on 3 legs, America is such a large stand, yes. Other states are smaller, again with their own platform that collects this money. So the globalists thought, why not create some invisible, like one big trunk, so that you wouldn't know who is there at all? In other words, elections are not needed. This is where they were leading us all. They were leading us straight into the abyss. It turns out that when people have relationships, when there is feedback, when you see the result of what you do, because if you have a hotel, you get results. Whether a person likes it or not, should be the same from a political point of view. And if they are already so high up that they don't see you, it's just a rupture. There is no feedback. This is why Elon Musk is so successful in business, because he has a close connection with the consumer, and he sells the car in a very direct and straightforward manner without a middleman. Therefore, he is not interested in repairing these cars later and taking money from you. Makes the car so that it doesn't break down at all. This is the approach. This is a healthy approach for a businessman. We have just turned into this space of common sense. That is, a common sense is, and it is so pleasing. All the time, over these 4 years, honestly, thanks to people like Tabakh, it was somehow psychologically possible to endure this situation. Well, okay, let's move on then. New laws need to be adopted for organizing certain elections. They talked about this in order to ensure that they cannot be falsified. Besides this,
60 years ago, more than 65 years ago, a person was launched into space. We already have cars that drive themselves, but we cannot organize counting votes to be done honestly, right?
because it is simply profitable.
Therefore, I definitely think that this should be changed, first of all, so that voting cannot be falsified in this way.
In my personal view, this is my perspective. People can agree or not, and that is perfectly fine. The number of civil servants should indeed be reduced by 10 times, and they should be relocated closer to patriots. We have already talked about this. And to eliminate there, Vivek says 75%, while my position is 90%. So 10-90%, it creates harmony. So 10-90, it results in harmony. That's it.
Well, at least you'll leave 10.
Yes, well, for now at least. And then people probably don't know Elon Musk's next move. This is, in essence, typically speaking, a non-representative policy. That is, you simply do not need to choose a deputy who represents your interests. You have a phone, and you can vote on everything you want in the GX platform. Can you imagine? Wanted to create such a system on Mars. And then he looked and indeed saw that there is clearly a problem here on Earth. And of course, he decided to clarify everything from a political point of view before flying to Mars. So he should be at peace about Earth, right? Why would he want chaos? Next, to reduce taxes up to 10%. And these 10% should include both federal and state taxes. If they want, there can also be local taxes included. But this would be bad for local authorities because businesses would kind of flee from that area. Therefore, everyone will be interested in minimizing this tax as much as possible. And besides, this tax should simply be a consumption tax. That is, if you buy a phone, you pay 10% and that's it. No more tax declarations are needed. No gradation based on income. The more you spend, the more you pay. If you spent $1 million, then that's how it was in our country.
I think this changed for us either in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It was the Democrats who decided to implement this equalization. That is, the more money you earn, the more taxes you pay in order to kind of equalize everyone. This is another socialist approach. But before we had, you bought an expensive house, you paid more taxes on it. Bought an expensive car, you paid more taxes on it. You bought a cheap one, you paid less tax. That's all.
On consumption.
Yes, on consumption. So in this way, people will consume less. Otherwise, just have some kind of consumption psychosis. We buy things we don't need.
Well, just imagine, even to figure it out right away, what will happen. You are currently paying 50% in taxes, but you will only pay 10%. leaving you with 100% of your taxes for travel, investments, and your children's education. And you invest that money, giving it to other people who earn.
Well, yes, indeed, those who work will live very well, not those who are freeloaders. That's it, in fact.
So it results in a kind of harmony that Elon Musk delivers every day. And what I'm saying is that, in principle, I have been living with this ideology for a long time. But now, yes, now I see it in person and online, and at such a speed that if someone had told me a month ago that this was possible, I wouldn't have really believed it. It's just fantastic. And the government should operate in a manner that is according to the regulations and laws of business and in a free market, which has now happened. Because it turns out that we live in this competitive market. We have competition. We take significant financial risks with our own money, while there are some people sitting here who took your money and risked nothing. And they live even better than we do. How is it really possible that Pioneer Biden came to power? Now he has, a billionaire, incredibly.
His entire family, indeed, was all present, truly.
This is a businessman. And you understand what the distortion is. Even a businessman who is quite savvy can do business. And he looks at it thinking, I will go into business and earn 3% in a year. But I will definitely go into politics and absolutely earn 300. And this undoubtedly encourages people to go there and steal.
Absolutely. Our country was built by businessmen. Our country was built by these oligarchs. There is definitely one on the History Channel, and indeed, who built our country. These Rockefellers and others, such as influential and powerful oligarchs, who were oligarchs, they built during the decades of the 20s and 30s. They built our country, the railroads, steel, oil, and so on, and other essential industries. A skilled team developed a comprehensive banking system designed to efficiently handle financial transactions and meet the needs of both individuals and businesses. And then they started to engage in politics, sit in politics for their whole lives.
And it turns out that we need to understand that, in fact, the state is a bureaucratic entity. And the taxes are set by bureaucrats. They do not set them for themselves, set them for us, so that we pay. When they come to power, they solve their own issues to become a billionaire from a pioneer. And there should also be an understanding that all three branches of power are bureaucrats. These are indeed the three branches of power that should help us live.
Whom we pay salaries to and benefits.
You certainly feel the help, Harry.
It would be better, we are from the state, we are bureaucrats, we are here to help you. It's better not to help us. As President Reagan said, he said that bureaucrats say, we will solve your problems. They do not understand that they are our problem, and we even pay them for it. In fact, we are actually from the government, and indeed, we are here to help you.
And this can already be formulated that if the state in general has more money than the people, it will invariably and ultimately end in war. Because the war is waged between government officials, they organize it, and then they pit people against each other. The various pretexts, heads, and so on. In fact, it would be simply honest if the war were declared. Putin takes this stick, Zelensky takes a stick, and they go into the ring. Bang, bang, bang. And someone wins. What does the people have to do with it at all? I don't understand.
This is potentially dangerous for their health. They seriously won't do that. They would rather lay down 1 million people, young, healthy ones, yes, fortunately. What else is in your declaration? What would you suggest doing?
Well, these are the main points. In other words, the entrepreneur is God, and the official is the executor, the manager, a temporary manager.
And the official is indeed the malevolent force. I also want to tell our viewers that please, yes, I hope this censorship will end someday.